Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the final quarter of the season, or final third of the season, rather. Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval is our venue tonight for round number 9 in season 1 of 2026 of the Radical Esports Cup. After last week's race at Brands Hatch, Christoph Lipp has not won that race. In fact, didn't pick up even a top 10 for the first time in a few weeks. We'll see how he and the rest of the field who are here tonight in this top split broadcast will go. Myself, Ian O'Leary, Ron Mounds in commentary with you, with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this broadcast. Ron, this circuit has not been around very long, less than 10 years in fact, but it's already got its place in motorsport, got its place in iRacing as well these days. It's the 2019 layout of the Charlotte Roval. I can't say I've ever seen these radicals come around here though before, and maybe it's a voyage of discovery for some of these drivers as well.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a voyage of discovery for us in the broadcast booth. Now, this is a combination that I've been one of the only people that's been beating on this drum for quite some time. This Charlotte Roval, it was one of the first tracks that I ever drove on extensively in my iRacing career, and I absolutely adore it. I know it's now gone the way of the Dodo Bird in real life. They've replaced the Fall Charlotte date with the regular oval, but this track still has a very special place in my heart. So if this race sucks here tonight, you know who to blame. You know that you can point your finger at me for advocating for this for the better part of about 2.5 years now. But I feel like we're going to have a good race. You know, it's got that technicality. It's got the toughness with the infield section that feels very much so like a street track. And you've also got those long flat-out blasts on the banking that are going to give us that oh-so-sweet draft.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll see how they go around here in terms of racing tonight. I think it will be interesting and exciting to drive. See whether it is to be a spectator or not, as we will be for the next hour or so. James Barry is currently leading the official standings, but my goodness, it is close. The top 3 covered by only 28 points. Christoph Lipp and Havik Gulliksen challenging him all the way. The battle for 4th place is going on behind that, really. 27 points between Heinz Braun and Kjetil Larsen, with Peter Ivigny and George Gonzaga and Christoph Lipp, Sebastian Lipp rather, not that far away. And Andre Castro and Edwin Rostein are currently fighting over 9th place. In the RaceSpotTV standings, as I mentioned, Christoph Lipp finished 11 laps down last week at Brands Hatch, and so he's been reeled right in by James Barry, who picked up a 2nd place finish. He's now only 11 points behind. Havik Gulliksen is just under 30 points behind now, with Sebastian Lipp and Kjetil Larsen rounding out the top 5. Peter Ivigny, Heinz Braun and Andre Castro, in fact all of those in the top 8 apart from Lipp, gained points last week, so they all get a bit closer to Christoph Lipp. George Gonzaga is the last driver who can catch Lipp, although that's very unlikely. And Alfredo Marlo has only finished in the top 10 once, and that was at Daytona a while ago. These are the track conditions. It's only going to get darker here tonight, and it's going to stay around 92 degrees Celsius. Excuse me. It's the 1st of April, and we're just past 8 p.m. So that's another facet to add into this, really, Ron, that we've got darkness. Not that it should make too much of a difference. It never really does at a Roval. Same as at Daytona, really, which I think was in the dark this season as well. It doesn't make a difference, really, at places like this.
Yeah, I think the only track I've ever seen it make a big difference at was a regular road course with it was Sebring when we were running in these radicals in the dark quite a few seasons ago, but there's also some, at that point the tires were pretty rough, but the tires have gotten a substantial improvement over the years, and I feel like we're in for a really good one. This Charlotte Roval, of course, it was kind of brought into the broader eye back in 2018 when NASCAR made their very first appearance here running on the 2019 layout, which was not the last configuration they used. They did make some alterations added in just a couple of months ago here on iRacing, but the Charlotte Roval has existed in some form or another ever since the track first opened back in 1960. In fact, it's played host to IMSA. It's odd. It's played host to it in 20-year increments. It used to host IMSA back in the 80s. Then it hosted an ALMS race back in the year 2000. And then the GT cars raced here back in 2020. You don't usually see sports cars run around this track. It's primarily known for the stock car racing, and the one time Joseph Newgarden ripped around here in an IndyCar during the NASCAR festivities in 2019. but I still think this is going to be a very fun combination with some trouble spots as well. Not only the track limits going to be tricky, but you got to worry about this chicane. It's a fantastic improvement over the previous iteration that they had, which was probably one of the most deadly chicanes in its time being used. However, that's going to be real tough for these racers, both trying to nail down the exit, avoid that safer barrier, which sticks out like an outcrop coming out of there. And you also have to consider as well the track limits, especially here in qualifying. You snag a curb and on the way, pick up a 0x, that lap time's not going to count.
Sebastian Lipp and Christoph Lipp have both made late lap times here, late attempts, so they'll be ones to watch here and see if they can get in front of Haver Gullikson. Andre Castro completes his session, getting up into second place. So Sebastian and Christoph Lipp are going to have to respond. It will be Sebastian over the line first, but Christoph Lipp is very, very close in behind him. Then this is Dennis Kyriakopoulos, who's going to be over the line in front of both of them, though, into the final chicane. Not sure whether he's actually got any times remaining out there, or whether he's just continuing on to practice, but he's got some time left in qualifying, so why not? He grabs the apron indeed on the way through NASCAR turns 3 and 4 before coming into the final chicane, pounding over the curbs and up towards the line. It could be an improvement, but he's not going to gain any places for that, even if it did count, and he is going to stay 12th. What about Christoph and Sebastian Lipp, though, as they come into the final turns? It's going to be Sebastian Lipp, I think, if anybody, who improves here, and it will be Paul, only just. Sebastian Lipp pulls it out the bag right at the very end. He waited until the very end of that session and takes Paul by 0.03 of a second in front of Gullikson. Christoph Lipp also managed to get up into third place, but they left it late and they delivered right at the very end, did the Lipp brothers, and they are on pole and third. They're in fact an e-racing team on one side of the grid. Sebastian Lipp, Christoph Lipp and James Barry. On the other side, Haver Gullikson, Andre Castro and Kalyan May, who rounds off row 3. A great performance from May in 6th position. Surprise performance, in fact. Heinz Braun and Rafa Blanco are on row 4 in front of George Gonzaga and Chris Wetz. It's Jason Munson and Dennis Kyriakopoulos who round off the 6th row. Ollie Gullikson next to Alexander Veremich, with Adam Sienecki and Claudius Bottiger Albrecht on row 8. Zoltan Harry and Owen Bennett then on row 9. And that is... there's one more, sorry, at the back end of the field. And a few more actually. They didn't set times though. Ango Granda, Michal Harchika and Michal Chalinitz did not set times. What a late lap time that was from Sebastian Lipp, and that could be a big advantage at a circuit like this.
Yeah, if there's one place that you want to start at here, is most certainly the front. Even if you're in the midfield, turn 1's going to be brutal, and the entirety of the first lap's going to be a rough ride. There's one spot I wouldn't want to be, though. It's the back of the pack, and that's why we've got standing start in this series, and it's always nuts, but that's going to make it such a pain in the rear end, especially trying to manage the wheel spin off the line. You'd be better off trying to pick up antimatter with chopsticks.
It baffles me really that they don't start sort of where the chicane cut through is, but anyway, never mind. They are going to start around the final chicane as it is. Clearly not many standing starts taken around here, and that's understandable, I suppose. Still waiting for Michal Chalinitz at the back of the field to actually get onto the grid here. So there's still actually one more in the background yet to come. Chalinitz will be even further back from the rest of the field. In terms of the RaceSpotTV standings, by the way, only top 10 score points. So there's a lot of guys who are going to miss out tonight. Not that the drivers will be particularly worried about that. No, we're more worried about the race in itself. Here we go. The lights come on here from Charlotte, and for 20 laps. Oh, and no go, and no start on the grid there from somebody. It might have been Kalyan May, who got nowhere off of the start there. Outside line meantime for Andre Castro, as he tries to take third position here, away from Christoph Lipp. They're side to side making contact in towards turn 3 though, and Castro moves up to third.
Yeah, so drama right off the line. The newcomer that I've never seen before getting an awful start. Not sure whether that was just completely falling asleep at the lights or maybe too much wheel spin. These cars are so tricky. Sometimes you just have to completely fry that clutch as you leave the line. Unfortunate start for the newcomer. They dropped down like a stone thrown into a pond. Didn't see any other chaos, which I'm a little bit surprised about considering the craziness and goofiness, frankly, of where these racers have to start, especially farther towards the back, but heading off into the backstretch chicane for the first time, still seeing side-by-side racing.
Oh, James Barry, that was looking down the inside of Christoph Lipp, but he's really slowed himself down by doing that. And Heinz Braun will get close to him. As a result, we've got trouble in the background here. Alexander Veremic is involved, along with Adam Zinicki, through that chicane. And it may have been only a slowdown or whatever, but there's positions being lost. Let's have a look, though, of some of these start replays. I suspect Callie May, to be honest, was just asleep at the wheel there, as it were, on the way towards turn number 1, and just did not get away at all, and is down to 13th position already. That is a big shame. Castro, meantime, looks at Gullikson here as he tries to take second away. Gullikson, who would have thought he was on pole until and he was on pole until the very end of that session, is now being challenged by Andre Castro for second.
Yeah, nice to see Andre Castro return to form. Your past two-time reigning series champion here in the Radical Esports Cup. He's had a torrid time of things here in Season 1 of 2026. Hasn't gotten some good results. It's been a while since we saw him go into victory lane. Now, though, Castro holding on to P3, gonna look to try and punch in front of the driver who won the series championship just 1 year ago. Gullikson always looks to try and be quick, but I think right now, Sebastian Lipp has the edge out on the field. So a long time left to go in this race. This is a short lap, so 20 laps is probably the longest, well, the most amount of laps that we have for the entirety of this season, as here comes Castro.
It is indeed, just beating Brands Hatch from last week. Castro not going for a proper dive there into the chicane. Will he get the run out of it, maybe? No, they're not even. He can't get any closer. Callian May makes the move into the far chicane, though, over Dennis Kyriakopoulos, so May making up positions nicely. And it's strange, you know, you've watched more in recent times anyway, Radical Racing than me, Ron, at the top split, which this is on 2100 GMT every Friday night. But he's number 8, so clearly got a decent I rating in this kind of field, because, you know, he's got better I rating than, you know, the likes of Kyriakopoulos and Ollie Gullikson and you know, Rafa Blanco, Chris Retz. These are all guys we see very regularly, so clearly good I rating, but good to see a new driver sort of giving this a go really on a Friday.
And I always love to see new names here in the series. That's part of the reason why I've always wanted to see a race with the SR10s at the Charlotte Roval. When I started broadcasting these races a little under 3 years ago, we would be, it would be a bit of a tough ask just to get one split. We now go through season after season, race after race, with 2 splits pretty much just being a common occurrence. Even at the tracks that are a bit more on the unpopular side of things, the growth in the Radical SR10 community has been immense just in my time covering it, which is a small little sliver of the entire time that the Radical community, previously on the SR8 before the SR10 was brought in a couple of years ago. But it's just been wonderful to see the community grow and new names kind of come into the series. I remember when the Lipp brothers, Sebastian and Christoph, showed up to their very first iRacing official. It was back at the start of, I believe, 2024 at Monza, running with that. The chicane was right before the start of the European and American seasons for that year's Radical Sim Racing League races. But yeah, it's always loving to see new names approach the series. New names get the opportunity to dip their toes into the pool with these cars. And this track, even though it is very tough, it is somewhat beginner friendly. You know, everybody gets the opportunity to race around here at some point. It's part of base content, and I feel like it's a match made in heaven, if I'm honest. And again, as I said right at the top of the show, if this race sucks, everybody can blame me, and I will fully throw up my hands. But I'm confident that it won't. I think we are in for a good one, and certainly a massive field of races that we've seen all week long.
So far, it's been so far so good. I think we're waiting though to see whether there's going to be a proper battle for the race lead here. And right between those three, it looks like there will be. Adam Zinicki's had more trouble here through the chicane and very nearly gets collected. That was very close, going through the chicane. Not sure who that would have been actually avoiding. Might have been, yeah, it was Claudius Bottiger Albrecht there, who just about avoided. As you mentioned before, you've got to be really careful through the chicane. First of all, you're slaloming between big curves either side of you, but also there's a wall on the outside as well that will punish you as well. It is a tricky chicane, even though it's not the fast one that was initially in the circuit.
I would be scared to see an SR10 race with the old chicane ladders. There's Angel Granda. That's a spin heading out of turn number 1. That's one of the... Okay, lucky that didn't result in a major incident on the rejoin. There's really nothing that you can do. I mentioned that the infield section is kind of street circuit-esque, very tight boundaries. You do have some runoff area, but not a lot. But turn 1 and the exit of it, super tricky to try and nail down. You're coming off the banking, which may be low in the tri-oval of the actual oval configuration, but there's still a little bit of banking, and then you're climbing. You're going uphill. Very rare to see elevation change on a Roval's. Castro spins out of the final turn.
He was trying so hard to get past Gullickson. He's gone for a spin through the final turn, and that's going to drop him outside the top 5. Carrion May's back to 6th again. It's a great recovery from May, but there's a couple of replays to have a look at here. Chris Wetz and Heinz Braun made contact earlier, and that's where Wetz hit the wall, and Braun did go up high there and scraping the wall as well. Castro, though, loses positions through this spin in Italy. He's actually had another one in live pictures, by the way. He's outside the top 10, but it's just too hard over those final curbs.
Yeah, and those curbs are so high compared to the cars themselves. Even when NASCAR runs here, could be the trucks, could be the O'Reilly Series, could be Cup Series. Doesn't matter what the deal is. And when you're running around here, those curbs are absolutely lethal. I have seen Claymores more welcoming than the curbs around this racetrack. So the fact there's only been one driver to get caught out by them thus far, I feel like we're running on borrowed time.
Well, yes, maybe. It is a big talking point around here. Barry and Lip again. James Barry looks faster than Christoph Lip, but I think we are starting to see the character of this circuit now, in that it's not impossible to overtake round here. I think far from it. However, I do think it's difficult. And at the moment, James Barry is finding this a little bit difficult, to be honest, in terms of getting himself past Christoph Lip, and now indeed onto the podium, as he would be if he could find his way past.
Yeah, you're going to have to work for it to try and get the moves done throughout the race. As much as you've got the long straightaways on the high banks that will give you the opportunity to close up if there is a mistake heading off through the infield, you still got to work for it. Either going for a move off into the final chicane, which, hey, if you've ever seen the first ever Cup race here back in 2018, Jimmy Johnson, 7-time Cup Series champion, proved that is not a very easy task. You've really got to put some effort in to try and get a move done around this racetrack, but it's not impossible, as we see Barry and Lip briefly fan out side by side. Not only is this a battle between some of the Radicals' best, it's a teammate battle as well with the Inert Stable, and a championship battle as well, considering that Christoph Lip and James Barry, they're both gunning for the crown at the end of the season, but only one of them can get it.
Yeah, indeed. Zoltan Harry, he's going to get dived into the... there's been an echo there, and that's put him into the grass. It's only sent him a little bit wide, but Andre Castro gets himself back up to 12th place at least. Klaus Pottinger, Albrecht able to get through as well as a result of that little bit of contact as well. Always something you have to contend with in any race online, as we know. It's an interesting opening section though here, Ron, through the first couple of corners. First, as you mentioned, just have a street circuit feel. I would definitely agree through turns 1 and 2 there, and probably into 3. I think it does get a little bit more normal as you get on with the lap for the rest of it. But it's an interesting couple of corners, because turn 3 is quite high speed, but effectively it's all one turn, isn't it? It's a very long double apex turn, and if you're going side by side, that makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah, and one kind of motif with these SR10s is they tend a bit more towards understeer than some other cars, certainly compared to the SR8. It feels like front light oversteer, where it feels like it's just a little bit floaty on the front of the car. It takes a little bit of effort to kind of salt the wheel a little bit just to get the car to kind of dart in through there. Doubly so with the full track conditions. It's maybe a little bit tough for these racers to negotiate those long sweeping bends, which is another part of this track that stands out compared to regular Rovals. It's still a classic Roval in the sense that you kind of have to make do with whatever space is available. You're pretty much driving through a parking lot, but in terms of Rovals that actually get some use in real life, it's really this and Daytona, obviously. That's kind of it. You don't really see too many Rovals get love, which, in the case of some, is definitely understandable. You can tell that a lot of them are just kind of hacked together to try and bring some track day events. But I do give credit to Charlotte, especially when they decided to upgrade the Roval back in 2018 to bring NASCAR here. It turned it into a bona fide racetrack, not just an afterthought stuck in an oval.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think Rovals are naturally limited by their surroundings, if you like, anyway, which just make life difficult, especially when you're at smaller racetracks. I mean, the way they've managed to fit this into 1.5 miles, though, is pretty impressive. As Gullikson continues to apply the pressure here to Sebastian Lipp. We're about to get to halfway here. We're just sort of building up, really, as far as the race lead is concerned. Christoph Lipp and James Barry are also catching in 3rd and 4th here, so are we going to see a four-way battle for the lead here, maybe? And how does Gullikson actually try and work his way through? Because I think it is going to be very, very difficult to make passes in the way that someone like Christoph Lipp or James Barry are going to have to do if they're going to go on and win this race.
You know, talking about how Gullikson can tackle this fight, I think if it were me, I would probably wait to the end, but I'm not sure if he has the ability to wait, because there you can see the group of Lipp and Barry, they're catching up and catching up quick. At this point, they are one small little slip up from Gullikson away from catching the draft, heading into the final chicane and being able to close that gap right up. Now with some traffic, oh, this is going to really stack them up. That's going to turn into a 4-car fight. I was wondering where the push was going to come from. That's the push to get these drivers suctioned back together. Not sure who that lap car was. Nothing you can really do to try and get out of harm's way. That just goes straight through the chicane. But that's going to be the push to make this battle a bit more intense. If you're Havard Gullikson, you're thinking, okay, maybe I have the benefit to just wait until the final few laps. You don't really have that now, because you've got Christoph Lipp and James Barry. Of course, they're going to want to try and get ahead just because they're racers and they want a higher position. But IGL Coatings, the team that Havard Gullikson drives for, and Inert, that Sebastian, Christoph Lipp, and James Barry all drive for, they've been kind of the top teams in Radical SR10 racing, both on the officials and league side of things, for quite a while. So there is a friendly rivalry there for sure, but a rivalry nonetheless. IGL Coatings wants to beat Inert, and Inert wants to beat IGL.
Yeah, absolutely. They are the big two, if you like. We sometimes see, especially in Radical Sim Racing, European and American, well, especially European races, actually, the Nix Esports drivers, like Oscar Soltero and so on, mixing it up with these guys on occasion. But these are the big two, as it were, and they're showing that off once again. You'd have to say that Inert are often the ones who are surrounding the front, and that's certainly the case at the moment. Gullikson feeling outnumbered, but I bet it's not feeling to Christoph Lipp like James Barry is one of his teammates right now, because Barry's continuing to apply the pressure here, and it's not exactly like a team game, as it were. This is a replay, meantime, of Sultan Harry. Oh, he's trying to get out of the way. Or is he? Owen Bennett there. Not entirely sure, but a lot of weaving and a spin, and Bennett piles in through turn 1. Thankfully, they got themselves clear before those 4 turned up, but that's what your point is about earlier, really, about this street circuit nature there. Bennett didn't really have anywhere to go.
Yeah, no room at all. It's pretty much an alleyway whenever you're coming out of turn number 1. It feels even more open on the other side of that concrete barrier, but it's still not a lot. No runoff area to speak of. It's pretty much just racetrack, line, well, painted line, and then wall. And that's not ideal. Here we go, though. Havard Gullikson now deciding that enough is enough. He's going to go for the move on Sebastian Lipp, and he gets it done into the backstretch chicane. That's how to do it here at the Roval.
That was very decisive, and that's exactly the way to do it at the Roval. Not like what James Barry has been doing for a while here, which is sort of have half looks, and Lipp is staying out of the way of everybody. Is he going to get out of the way of James Barry as well? He lets Christoph Lipp through, but he doesn't have the same affinity to James Barry, who he keeps behind him. Well, there's championship points, don't forget, in play here in the iRacing standings as well. Let's not forget, it's Michal Chalinitz, by the way, who's been rather rudely shoved off the road there by Heinz Brolin, actually, a little bit further down the field. Chalinitz is a lapped driver. He was the lap driver pulling out the way earlier, by the way, but look at that. This is I think, iRacing standings these guys are fighting for, because Christoph Lipp and James Barry, if you saw those at the beginning of the broadcast, they're exceptionally close in those, with Gullikson as well. So Sebastian Lipp keeping Barry down in 4th could be vital.
Yeah, one thing I will say about Sebastian Lipp, I flashed my mind back to the 2025 Radical World Finals, where Aiden Young, who eventually went on to be the winner of that event, along with being the winner of that year's America's Championship, he was being hounded towards the end by Sebastian Lipp. It was defensive driving to an extreme that I have never really seen before in these Radicals. He knows how to park the bus, and now sometimes it can get a bit too extreme, like it is now. That's definitely touch and go. Sebastian trying to chase James Barry's tail a bit, and that's not going to help out Barry's case at all. He's going to have a scrolled up approach. I think he may have picked up a slowdown from that. You can't get away with that. iRacing will not look upon that kindly.
Yeah, oh, and Sebastian Lipp doesn't want to go down the inside of turn 2 for fear of making contact, but I think even if Barry has got through there, the job's done in effect. Because look at the gap to the leaders. It's nearly 3 seconds up to Christoph Lipp, who's now challenging Havik Gullikson. So even though Barry has got through, I think he's gotten away with the slowdown, or at least it wasn't very big to serve there. So, but as I say, in any case, Sebastian Lipp has held back James Barry for a lap, and it's given his brother the biggest chance now to go on and try and win this race ahead of Gullikson, or at the very least take points away from Barry. So he's finishing ahead of one of his big rivals here this season, in season 1 of 2026.
Yeah, so even though they're teammates, they are kind of part of different stables. Yeah, the Lipp brothers, part of the Lipp Train team, just part of that same inert team kind of stable and general banner that all these organizations hold themselves to. But that is still, I'll be honest, quite surprising. It was definitely aggressive, I will say, with Sebastian Lipp. Thankfully, it didn't result in contact. If it resulted in contact, James Barry would probably be able to invent a new curse word to call Sebastian Lipp once this is all said and done. Another nerd driver making up the spot is George Gonzaga. Just got a move done on Galen May. That was the other fight for P6, and that's resulted in a swapperoo. But in all of that, your top two have broken away, punched out to a whole shot, and now with 5 laps left to go, the drivers behind of Barry and Lipp would need a historic fumble from both of these two to have a shot at victory once more. So it was a 2-horse race, then it became a 4. Now we're back into a 2-horse race once again.
Yeah, we are, and it's going to remain that way, I think, to the end now. 5 laps to go, rather. Not many more than 5 minutes to go. They're very, very short laps around here, probably about 6. Side by side, Castro gets back into the top 10 at least. It's been a day of recovery for him. Just looking back at the earlier stages in this race where Castro was, he was behind Gullikson, remember, earlier on, fighting for, I think it was 2nd place at the time. Imagine if Castro didn't have that spin out of the final chicane there and didn't pound over the curves in the way that he did. Stays up there in the field, and he'd be involved in this fight if he'd have stayed there and stuck around. So it's very much a night of what could have been for Andre Castro, which I think has been his season a little bit after he was, in our races anyway, in our broadcasted races, he was by far the dominant driver throughout the season.
Yeah, you know, you think back to season 4 of 2025, nobody really had a chance. He scored a lot of wins. Even the season beforehand, even though it was a bit more touch and go, we didn't really know who was going to be the main driver contending for the crown until late when Andre Castro just shot out into the distance. Just hasn't really been able to come his way thus far here. And now, although there are races every single 2 hours here on iRacing with the Radical Esports Cup, this is the biggest race of the week. It sees the biggest participation. It is the biggest effect on championship points because of the way that iRacing awards them and divvies them out. There is a reason why everybody wants to run well here, even though we just have a very small, a minute sample size compared to the rest of the action in the week. This is still a pretty big indicator as to who's going to be the one to contend for the crown.
Yeah, indeed. That's absolutely right. And by the way, we're live on the iRacing and RaceSpotTV YouTube channels and everywhere else, so you may be finding us this evening, every week, here in the evenings on Fridays. If you're in a part of the world where the clocks change, the time might actually change as well to go an hour later, but if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. But nevertheless, we're here every Friday evening. apart from week 13s, and enjoying radical racing here for Friday evening, as it's always a good show. And at the moment we're up for a grandstand finish between Gullikson and Lip, and that was a little bit wide from Havoc Gullikson. Oh, and he goes up the banking a little bit here. This is where he took the lead away earlier on from Sebastian Lip in towards the back straight chicane, and all of a sudden he's the one under pressure. Does Christoph Lip go for it? He might not get a better chance than that, although he was quite a long way back, and he might come to rue it later, but Gullikson gets away with one there, just making that little bit of an error.
So now you can see the gap closing up to nearly a single tenth of a second. Oh, I thought Christoph Lip was going to go for the dive into the turn. Moves into the final chicane. You can do it, but you also quickly learn how quickly a car can get turned into an unrecognizable pile of metal pulp. So Christoph Lip thought better of it into the turn, but he's running out of opportunities. We're getting into crunch time here in this race, and I think the both of them know that. We're going to see Christoph Lip bring up the aggression. I think Gullikson has maybe been saving a little bit in his back pocket, trying to run those tires up a little bit more. Tire wear usually isn't too extreme in these cars, but you just have to keep the tires underneath you in terms of the temperature. I think Gullikson has been able to do that thus far in this race and has a bit more left in the tank to bring the thunder towards the end. This may be his win for the taking, and just in this little bibble babble of mine, he's pulled out the gap to about 7/10 of a second.
Yeah, he has pulled out a big margin. I think contributed slightly to a mistake by Lip, but nevertheless Gullikson has taken advantage here, and it looks like he might be on his way to a first win on a Friday night here this season. He hasn't taken one since Detroit, which came in October in our broadcasted races here, something like that, something like October, and he's maybe September even. He might well be on his way though. 2 laps to go, and as he comes into the final chicane, Christoph Lip closes again, so this won't be over yet. And as he gets closer to the victory as well, the pressure will be mounting on Gullikson. But based on what we've seen so far, I think even if he gets there, Christoph Lip, I think, is going to find this a difficult overtake to make in such a limited amount of time.
See, now we can cut this a little bit differently, talking about how long it's been since Havard Gullikson last won a race here in these radical officials. I wasn't even able to drink the last time that Havard Gullikson won one of these broadcasted races. It's been quite a long time, but he's always been quick in this series. It's just been a matter of other drivers bringing the thunder a little bit more, and a little bit of misfortune, if we are honest.
So I see, if your birthday was 2 days ago, that wouldn't be such an extraordinary thing to say. But,
That's for sure.
but there you go. It was 2 whole weather seasons ago. There you go. Anyway, it might not happen yet. He's not in the clear at all. Christoph Lip is close, and he's closing into the final chicane. This is the penultimate lap, and Gullikson seeing the pressure get to him here. He's not protected the inside line. He's going for the inside of the final part. Christoph Lip backs away so that he can get the inside to turn 1. White flags in the air. There's going to be a grandstand finish here in Charlotte, and oh, he's got it. Christoph Lip down the inside. Has he stolen it away right on the very last lap here?
I think he may have. We still have about a half a lap left to go, and Gullikson has some long flat-out blasts to try and close up that gap and go for a move. But even if it doesn't work out for Christoph Lip, what a move to get the race lead. That was incredible as he sent it off into turn number 1. We've talked about how tricky of a turn that is, and he was still able to do that, but it's not over. Gullikson closing up the gap, Lip with the slip.
Lip does go wide there, coming onto the back straight, and there's going to be another chance here after the mistake at turn 8. This is where Gullikson took the lead last time, and he's on the outside into the back straight chicane. He gets the inside for the second pot. They've got to leave each other room. There's a wall on the outside. They hit each other, and Lip's got the exit here. Gullikson's not far away. He might well give it a send to give this one last go into the final chicane. Lip defends the inside. There's contact. There's ball here in towards the chicane. He's going to go deep. Here's Christoph Lip. Will Gullikson get the exit into the run to the line? No, he won't. An extraordinary finish at Charlotte, but Christoph Lip hangs on for yet another victory this season, his 4th, and Gullikson's wait continues in a dramatic final lap here tonight.
You know, I said that everybody could point the finger at me and call me an idiot if this race sucked. That was incredible. That was absolutely awesome. I had a feeling that this combination was going to be a stunner, and a stunner it was. But that takes two to tango. I want to give some love to Christoph Lipp, your race winner, and Havard Gullikson, who gave it everything towards the end, but just was not enough. Bravo to the both of them. It certainly ended with the elbows getting broken out towards the end, but contending for a victory. You got to do what you got to do. And if Christoph Lipp ends up winning the title here in Season 1 of 2026, we will look back at the end of the season and point out this race and that finish as the event that may have sealed it.
We certainly pointed it as an exciting one at the end of the season. There's no doubt about that. Christoph Lipp wins, and we'll chat to them both hopefully in a moment. Normally they do come and talk to us. What a final lap that was. His gap in the end, a tenth and a half between Lipp and Gullikson. James Barry rounds off the podium with Sebastian Lipp then rounding off the top four. They weren't actually that far away because of the fighting in the end. Rafa Blanco gets into a top 10 position there, the only driver with a number higher than 10 to be in the top 10 there. George Gonzaga finishes in 6th place. A return to the top 10 for him, by the way, on Friday night. Hasn't been here since 3 weeks ago at Long Beach. Kalya May making his first appearance inside the top 10, the only driver to debut inside the top 10 this season here tonight. Andre Castro, Jason Munson and Dennis Kyriakopoulos round off the field. Heinz Barnaby disappointed with 11th, I think. Oleg Gullikson with 12th. Claudius Boccia Albrecht avoided quite a big accident early on to finish 13th. Adam Sinecki and Owen Bennett, the last drivers on the lead lap. Ango Granada, Zoltan Hari, Mihail Parchika and Mihail Chalinets rounded up those one lap down. Alexander Vermes did not finish in this race after early trouble along with Chris Wetz. Might have even been together, those two. Well, let's have a chat then, shall we, to the top two in this race, starting with Christoph Lipp, who has got out the other side with a victory tonight. Christoph, congratulations. That last lap was something special to watch. Tell us what it was like from your perspective.
Yeah, it was a great battle with Harvard. I just talked to him in the waiting room, and we both said it was a great battle. Close but fair from both sides, and I was a lucky one in the end. It's more difficult to overtake on that track than I really thought, and dirty air is really hard. So it's a great track to race, honestly.
Yeah, it looked like it at the end, especially, but. As you mentioned, there were some difficult moments in terms of overtaking. Talk through the moment with your brother there, with Sebastian Lipp giving up the lead to Gullikson earlier on and then giving over the place to you, and he went on to fight with James Barry a little bit further down. Just talk us through the interaction going on there and how you're all viewing the iRacing Championship this season, because between you and James and Hubbard, it is very, very close in terms of the points coming into this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Sebastian had bad luck because he had damage and he couldn't defend anymore against Harvard, and then he directly let me pass because he saw more chances for me, and also because of the championship, and unfortunately he couldn't hold it against James, but as I said, he had damage, and the championship is super close, as you said. Now I think all of us three have 8 races in, so now it's just about filling up some additional points from drop weeks or from weeks which were not so good, and let's see where we will end up.
Absolutely, we'll see how that changes in the next 4 weeks, but for now, Christoph, congrats on winning tonight from Charlotte, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Bye.
Thanks so much. That's Christoph Lipp, who wins tonight in front of Havard Gullikson, who is second. Havard, welcome in. Good to have you with us. I really thought you were going to get your first win on a Friday for a while there, but it wasn't quite to be. Tell us about the last lap with yourself and Christoph.
Yeah, it was a really nice fight. I got a bit too much distracted about the guys we catched. That was more laps down, and I did some small mistakes, and you can't give too many opportunities to Lipp, and he will seize it. But a really nice fight. I hope he think it's also clean, some touching, but that's racing, I think.
And it was bound to happen at this circuit as well. What were you expecting from this week before we started racing here at the Charlotte Roval with to our knowledge, it's not been on the Radicals calendar before. How did you, how have you found it so far this week?
It's quite a technical track. Been struggling a bit. I tried to practice some quali laps, and I think I got my best quali lap in this race, so maybe lucky, but yeah, I enjoyed the track and a lot of racing. But from the start in this race, I was both attacking and defending all the time, so it was a bit stressful race, but very, very fun.
Well, congrats on getting to second, and commiserations on not holding on to the victory. But thanks for chatting to us as always after the race.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's Haber Gulliksen, who finishes second here tonight from the Charlotte Roval. And to be fair, Ron, you can pat yourself on the back. I'm sure it wasn't you on your own getting iRacing to put this in the schedule, but you know, you've contributed here, and it looks like it's been a good call as well. I hope the other races in the week have been just as much fun as this one, because that was a fantastic finish.
Yeah, to any other series admins who want me to make their schedule, I pay. It's only about $1 million that I have. No, I'm kidding. But no, that was a pretty fun race. I will say the Radical community, season after season, votes on the calendar, and already seeing some love for this track to return. It's been something that I've advocated for quite some time, just purely on a participation side of things. The racing, though, I was expecting it was going to be good. Wasn't thinking it was going to be that good. Everyone seemed to love it, and hopefully all the viewers loved it as well. But Coda, next time out, you know, I was talking about turn 1 maybe being a little bit tricky here. I am scared to see how turn 1's gonna be at Coda. Scared in a good way, I think. We're probably gonna get some good highlights and clips out of that. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a Radical SR10 sandwich.
You just never know what you're going to see at Circuit of the Americas on the way towards turn number 1, or indeed for the rest of the race. So that's the third last round of our season. Make sure you join us for that. The week after, by the way, is the trusty old Bathurst, which has been on every schedule since the dawn of time. So we'll be back there again in a couple of weeks' time. But big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight for the Charlotte Roval round of this circuit. It was absolutely fantastic. A great battle between Christoph Lipp and Haber Gulliksen to end off here tonight. More of the same coming up in the Radical Esports Cup next week on the iRacing and RaceSpotTV YouTube channels. By the way, coming up later tonight, starting in about 4 hours' time, the iRacing Daytona 500. Already had the 24 hours. The Daytona 500 coming up on your Friday night here on the iRacing YouTube channel as well. That's coming up, as I say, just over 4 hours' time. So make sure you come and join us for that a little bit later on. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Ron Mounds and Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this broadcast here tonight. We'll all be back from COTA in 1 week time in the Radical Esports Cup. For now, it's goodbye.